My name is Sophia Carter, and I'm 27 years old. If you're listening right now, I want you to pause for just a second and imagine, what would you do if the life of your child depended on money you didn't have? What would you do if the people you trusted most, the very people who smiled at you at family dinners, turned their backs when you begged them for help? This is not just a story. This is my life, and it began on a night that still haunts me. My little girl, Lily, only 6 years old, was always full of life. She loved to run barefoot in the garden, her laughter echoing like tiny bells. But that night, her laughter stopped. I walked into her room to find her gasping for air, her tiny body trembling. Panic gripped me as I scooped her up in my arms, shouting for my younger brother, Daniel, who lived with us. He rushed into the room, his face pale. "Sophia, we need to get her to the hospital, now." We drove like mad, the silence between us filled only by Lily's shallow breaths. My mind screamed every prayer I had ever known. By the time we reached the hospital, doctors had already rushed her inside. I stood there frozen, clutching Daniel's hand, trying to stay strong while my world was falling apart. Minutes felt like hours before the doctor, Dr. Harrison, came out, his eyes heavy with the kind of news no parent is ready to hear. "Sophia, your daughter needs immediate surgery. It's critical. Without it, she won't make it." The words shattered me. My knees buckled, but Daniel caught me before I hit the ground. "How much will it cost?" he asked, his voice trembling. $250,000, Dr. Harrison replied. "We need the payment approved right away to start the procedure." $250,000. The number hit me like a brick wall. It was the exact amount my cousin, Victoria, was spending on her wedding next weekend. My heart raced. Surely family would help. I had always been there for them, at birthdays, celebrations, even when they just needed someone to listen. Would they not be there for me now? I swallowed my pride and called Victoria. Her voice was cheerful, buzzing with excitement. "Sophia, you won't believe it. I just picked out the most stunning chandelier for the reception. It's crystal, imported straight from Italy." I wanted to scream, but instead, I whispered, my voice breaking, "Victoria, it's Lily. She needs surgery. $250,000. Please, I'm begging you." There was a long pause on the other end. Then her fiancé, Richard, took the phone. His tone was cold, like steel. "Sophia, this is terrible, but we've already budgeted everything for the wedding. We can't just pull that kind of money out of nowhere. Besides, it's not our responsibility." Not their responsibility. The words cut through me like a knife. My daughter's life wasn't their responsibility. She was their blood. She was family. Tears blurred my vision as I hung up the phone. I turned to Daniel, who was pacing the hospital hallway. "They said no," I whispered, my voice hollow. His fists clenched, rage flashing in his eyes. How can they spend $250,000 on a wedding but refuse to save Lily? This is madness, Sophia. Before I continue, let me pause for just a second. If you've ever felt betrayed by family, if you've ever faced a moment when money seemed more valuable than love, you'll understand the pain I was feeling. And if this story moves you, please, hit that subscribe button right now, because what comes next will shock you even more. Back in that hospital corridor, I felt the walls closing in. Lily's condition was worsening, and every second counted. I thought of my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, but they had passed away years ago. All I had left was this family who valued chandeliers and champagne fountains more than a child's heartbeat. I tried again. I called my uncle, Robert, who had always preached about family unity. His answer was even colder. "Sophia, I sympathize, but I can't interfere in Victoria's big day. Do you realize how important this wedding is for our family's reputation? We have dignitaries coming, businessmen, politicians. If we divert funds now, it would ruin everything." Reputation, image, status. They were ready to protect those at the cost of my daughter's life. My hands shook as I hung up the phone. Daniel put his arms around me, but it didn't ease the ache. Nothing could. Inside the ICU, Lily lay with tubes attached to her tiny arms, her face pale, her breath shallow. I pressed my forehead against hers and whispered, "Don't give up, baby. Mommy won't give up either." But in that moment, I felt utterly alone. The people I thought would stand by me had chosen to walk away. They had chosen luxury over life. And as I held my daughter's hand, one thought seared into my mind. If they could abandon me at my weakest, could I ever forgive them if fate turned against them one day? Little did I know, that day was closer than I ever imagined. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. Every beep of the monitor next to Lily's bed was like a hammer striking my chest. I sat there, clutching her tiny hand, my brother Daniel beside me, both of us waiting for a miracle. But instead of miracles, what came to my mind was betrayal. Fresh, sharp, and unforgettable. Because while my daughter lay hooked up to machines, struggling to breathe, my cousin Victoria Carter was hosting the most extravagant wedding our family had ever seen. I had heard whispers about it for months, how she and her fiancé Richard Green were planning a fairy tale celebration. But I never imagined the scale until I saw it myself. Their faces were splashed across glossy invitation cards that looked more like royal decrees than family letters. Gold embossed, perfumed, each one costing more than my monthly rent. I didn't want to go, but part of me had to see it with my own eyes, the world they were living in while my little girl was fighting for her life. Daniel insisted on driving me, even though my heart was tearing apart with every mile closer to that mansion-sized venue. The moment we arrived, I felt like I'd stepped into another universe. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings of a ballroom that could have swallowed our entire neighborhood. Guests arrived in luxury cars, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, each shining under the flood of camera flashes. A fountain sprayed champagne instead of water, and a red carpet rolled out longer than any I'd ever seen at a cinema premiere. I froze. My chest tightened as I remembered the number the doctor had quoted me, $250,000. That was the cost of my daughter's life. And that was the same number Richard had proudly announced to guests as the budget of their wedding. "Do you see this?" Daniel whispered, his jaw tight with rage. "They are burning through the same money that could save Lily. All of this, for one night." His words cut through me, but it was the truth. As I stood among the crowd, I couldn't breathe. I saw Victoria swirling in her diamond-encrusted gown, her makeup flawless, her smile wide, surrounded by photographers. She looked like a queen on a throne, while I was a broken mother, invisible in a room full of flashing lights. I tried to approach her. "Victoria," I called, my voice trembling. She turned, her eyes lighting up with excitement, until she saw me. Her smile faltered. "Sophia, what are you doing here? You look tired." Her tone was laced with discomfort, like my presence was spoiling her fairy tale. I didn't care. I clasped her hand. "Please, Victoria. Lily is dying. The doctors need $250,000 for her surgery. You have the money. Please, I'm begging you. You can save her life." Before she could answer, Richard stepped in, his arm sliding protectively around her waist. His jaw tightened as he looked at me. "We already told you. This isn't the right time. We've invested too much into this wedding. If we pull out funds now, it would ruin everything. Don't make a scene here, Sophia." Ruin everything. My daughter was about to die, and they were worried about ruining a party? I felt the room spinning. The chandeliers above blurred into a million cruel lights as tears filled my eyes. "You'd spend this much on flowers and lights," I whispered, my voice breaking, "but not a penny to save your own blood." Victoria looked away, shame flickering for just a moment before she masked it with a tight smile. "I'm sorry, Sophia. I really am. But we can't cancel everything now." I stumbled back, my knees weak. Daniel caught me by the shoulders, his face red with fury. "You're monsters!" He hissed at them before dragging me out of the hall. Outside, fireworks exploded in the sky, painting it with colors that mocked me. Each burst of light was a reminder of what they chose over my daughter's heartbeat. I could still hear the laughter, the music, the clinking of champagne glasses behind me, while in another part of the city, Lily lay fighting for her life. That night, I cried until my tears turned into silence. I thought about my Uncle Robert, who had told me the family's reputation was more important than my daughter's life. I thought about my cousin Victoria, twirling in diamonds, and Richard, spitting cold words at me like daggers. And I thought about Lily, whose small body was growing weaker by the second. For the first time, a dark question settled in my heart. Were they even my family anymore? Because family doesn't turn their backs when a child is dying. Family doesn't pour $250,000 into chandeliers and imported flowers while refusing to save the life of a little girl they once cradled in their arms. Before I continue, let me pause and speak directly to you, the one watching, listening, feeling this pain with me. If you believe no amount of money should ever be worth more than family, then please, hit that subscribe button right now. Stories like mine are real, raw, and painful, and your support means more than you can imagine. Back in the hospital, I sat by Lily's side, staring at her pale face. I whispered promises into her ear, that I would never give up, no matter who abandoned us. But inside, my heart was breaking in ways I can't even describe. That wedding, it wasn't just a celebration. It was a knife in my back. It was proof that to them, appearances mattered more than love. Gold mattered more than blood. And lights mattered more than life. Little did they know, life has a way of flipping the script. The same people who refused to help me, who laughed under chandeliers while my daughter fought for her life, would soon find themselves crawling back, desperate for the very person they had rejected. And when that day came, I wouldn't be the one on my knees. I used to believe rejection was something you faced in small parts of life, like a failed exam, a missed job offer, or a friend who drifts away. But nothing prepared me for the rejection that came when I begged my own family to save my daughter's life. That rejection wasn't just cruel, it changed everything inside me. I still remember that night at the hospital. The doctor, Dr. Harrison, walked toward me, his expression fine but kind. "Sophia," he said gently, "we don't have much time. If we don't proceed with Lily's surgery soon, her chances will drop significantly." His words sank deep, tearing me apart. I nodded, trying to stay strong. "I'll find the money. I promise." But when I walked out of the hospital doors that night, the cold air stung me with the truth. I had already tried everyone. My cousin Victoria and her fiancé Richard had refused, prioritizing that $250,000 wedding. My Uncle Robert had turned me away in the name of family reputation. My last hope was my aunt, Margaret, who always claimed to love Lily like her own granddaughter. With trembling hands, I dialed her number. "Aunt Margaret," I whispered, my voice already breaking. "Lily needs surgery. Please, you're my last hope." For a moment, silence filled the line. Then her sigh echoed, heavy and cold. "Sophia, I wish I could help, but you know how expensive things are these days. We're already stretched with Victoria's wedding contributions. You have to understand, sometimes we can't save everyone." Those words shattered me. Sometimes we can't save everyone. But Lily wasn't everyone. She was my baby. She was blood. She was family. How could they say that? I fell to the floor, sobbing, my phone slipping from my hand. Daniel rushed in, kneeling beside me. "What happened?" "They said no." I choked out, my voice raw. "All of them. Every single one of them." Daniel clenched his fists, anger flashing in his eyes. "Then they are no family of ours, Sophia. No family at all." Inside me, something cracked. I had always believed in love, in loyalty, in family. I believed those bonds were unbreakable. But in that moment, I realized they could shatter as easily as glass under the weight of greed and selfishness. The cruelest part wasn't just the rejection, it was the excuses. Excuses wrapped in silk words, polished to sound reasonable, but dripping with betrayal. It's not the right time. We can't cancel the wedding. Reputation matters. Their voices played in my head like poison on repeat. As I sat by Lily's bed that night, I whispered to her, though she was too weak to reply. They've turned their backs on us, baby. But Mommy won't. Mommy will fight, even if I have to tear the world apart. My tears soaked her tiny hand, and I promised myself I would never forget this pain. Before I continue, let me speak directly to you, the one listening, maybe with tears in your own eyes. If you've ever been betrayed by people who swore they'd stand by you, if you've ever felt the sting of rejection when you needed love the most, then you know exactly how heavy my heart was that night. And if this story resonates with you, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, because what happened next changed not only my life, but theirs too. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. Every morning I woke up to the same nightmare, Lily's weak breaths, the sound of machines, the doctor's warnings. And every day, I carried the same wound, the knowledge that my family could save her, but chose not to. Daniel did everything he could. He tried contacting charities, local organizations, even old friends. But $250,000 is not an amount you raise overnight. We were drowning in desperation, while just across the city, music and laughter filled Victoria's wedding halls. One afternoon, I received a message on my phone. It was a photo from the wedding, a golden cake taller than me, covered in edible diamonds. Beneath it, Victoria smiled in her gown, while Richard raised a glass of champagne. The caption read, "A once-in-a-lifetime celebration." I stared at that photo for a long time. My stomach churned. My daughter's once-in-a-lifetime chance to survive was slipping away, and they were celebrating theirs with gold. That was the moment something inside me died. The Sophia who believed in family, who believed in unconditional love, she was gone. What remained was a woman determined to fight alone. I remember standing by the hospital window that night, watching the city lights flicker. Daniel joined me, his voice low. "Sophia, I know you're in pain, but listen to me. Don't let them break you. One day, life will bring this back to them. Karma doesn't forget." I wanted to believe him, but all I felt was emptiness. I had begged, I had cried, I had pleaded, and they had shut the door in my face. That cruel rejection, it didn't just change my view of them. It changed me. It taught me that sometimes, the ones closest to you can become strangers. It taught me that sometimes, blood means nothing if the heart is empty. And yet, fate has a strange way of circling back. Because while I was at my weakest, they were at their strongest. But life has a way of turning tables, and soon, the same people who rejected me would find themselves on their knees. And this time, it would be my choice whether to save them, or to walk away. They say karma has no deadline, and for the longest time, I thought that was just a comforting phrase people used when life felt unfair. But months after my daughter's surgery, I learned that karma doesn't just knock, it breaks down doors. Yes, against all odds, Lily survived. Not because of my family, but because of strangers. A local charity stepped in at the last minute. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years donated what little they could. Even Daniel sold his car and worked double shifts to help cover the bills. Piece by piece, we managed to gather enough. The surgery was grueling, but Lily pulled through. My baby lived, not because of those who should have helped, but because of those who chose to. And then, life flipped. It started with whispers. Victoria and Richard's fairy tale wedding had drained more than just their bank accounts. Richard's investments, shady, high-risk ventures, collapsed soon after. He lost nearly everything. Business partners backed out, creditors came knocking, and the same guests who once clinked glasses at their golden wedding now whispered behind their backs. I didn't pay much attention at first. I was too busy sitting by Lily's bedside, reading her bedtime stories, and cherishing every laugh I thought I might never hear again. But one evening, Daniel walked in, his face carrying both shock and a grim sort of satisfaction. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Richard's company just declared bankruptcy. They are broke, Sophia." I froze. Images of chandeliers, champagne fountains, and diamond-encrusted gowns flashed before me. Broke? Them? The ones who refused to lift a finger for Lily? But karma wasn't done. Uncle Robert, the man who valued reputation over his niece's life, faced his own storm. A scandal broke out about illegal deals in his business. His so-called reputation crumbled overnight, leaving him humiliated in the very circles he tried so hard to impress. And Aunt Margaret, the one who told me, sometimes we can't save everyone. Her own son, my cousin Matthew, fell gravely ill. Treatment costs mounted, and suddenly she was the one knocking on doors, begging for help. One by one, their golden walls cracked, and eventually they all came to me. It was surreal. I still remember the day Victoria showed up at my doorstep. Her flawless makeup was gone, her designer clothes replaced with simple, wrinkled ones. She looked human, vulnerable. "Sophia," she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. "We need your help. Please. Richard is in trouble. We don't know where else to go." Behind her stood Aunt Margaret and Uncle Robert, their proud faces bent low, their voices heavy with desperation. "Sophia, we made mistakes," Robert admitted, his voice breaking. "But you're the only one who can help us now." The irony almost knocked the air out of me. These were the same people who once told me my daughter's life wasn't the right time. The same ones who turned my pleas into whispers of shame. Now, here they were, on my porch, pleading with me. I looked at them, my heart torn between rage and pity. Daniel stood behind me, his eyes blazing. "Don't forget what they did, Sophia," he reminded me. "Don't forget Lily." And how could I? Every night I held my daughter's hand in that cold hospital room. I remembered their excuses. Every tear that fell on her pillow was a reminder of their betrayal. Before I continue, let me pause here and ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you forgive them, or would you walk away? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because what I chose to do shocked even me. Standing there, I saw their faces once proud, now humbled. I saw the fear in their eyes, the same fear I once carried when Lily's life hung in the balance. For the first time, they understood my pain. For the first time, they knew what it felt like to need and be denied. And in that moment, I realized the power had shifted. I was no longer the one begging. I was no longer powerless. They needed me. I took a deep breath, my voice steady, my heart heavy. "Do you remember," I asked slowly, "the night I begged you to save Lily? Do you remember how you turned your backs on me because a wedding, a reputation, or money mattered more than a child's life?" They lowered their eyes, shame painted across their faces. "You taught me something that night," I continued. "You taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. And you chose money over love. You chose yourselves over us." Victoria broke down, her sobs echoing in the silence. "Please, Sophia, we were wrong. We're sorry. We'll do anything. Just help us now." Her words should have comforted me, but they didn't. They felt empty, too late, like apologies whispered to a grave. I turned to Daniel. His jaw was set, his eyes asking the same question mine were. Could we forgive? Could we forget? The truth was, forgiveness wasn't impossible. But forgetting, that was something I could never do. Karma had knocked, and the tables had turned. They were no longer the saviors. They were the beggars. And I was no longer desperate. I was strong. I was in control. As I closed the door behind me that evening, I knew life would never be the same again. Not for them. Not for me. Power. I never thought I'd have it. For so long, I lived on the edge of desperation, pleading, crying, begging. But as I stood in my own living room, staring at the very people who once turned me away, I realized something had shifted forever. I was no longer the weak one. I was no longer the woman on her knees, begging for scraps of compassion. No, this time, they were the ones begging. And I was the one with the choice. Victoria knelt before me, her mascara smudged, her once glamorous hair tangled. Richard stood stiff behind her, his suit wrinkled, his pride shattered. Uncle Robert and Aunt Margaret sat on my couch, their hands clasped together, trembling like guilty children caught in a lie. "Sophia," Robert began, his voice breaking, "we know we failed you. We made terrible mistakes. But please, please help us now. You're the only one who can." I looked at them, my mind flashing back to the nights I sat in that hospital, watching Lily's chest rise and fall under the weight of machines. I remembered the sound of Dr. Harrison's voice, warning me that time was running out. I remembered clutching Lily's hand, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. And I remembered the silence of my phone after every call I made to these very people. I turned my eyes to Victoria. "Do you know what it feels like," I asked softly, "to watch your child fight for every breath while your family dances under chandeliers?" She sobbed harder, her body shaking. Richard muttered, "We were wrong. We were foolish. We see that now." Daniel, standing behind me, leaned forward and whispered, "Don't let them fool you, Sophia. They didn't change, they are just desperate." And maybe he was right. But still, I could see something in their eyes I had never seen before. Fear. Fear of losing everything. Fear of being powerless. Fear of being on the other side of rejection. For a moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw their excuses back at them. It's not the right time. We can't ruin the celebration. Reputation matters more. I wanted them to taste the same poison they fed me. But then I looked at Lily. My daughter, my miracle. She was standing in the doorway, her little frame still weak but her eyes bright with life. She didn't understand everything, but she saw enough. She saw me standing tall. She saw them on their knees. And I realized this wasn't just about revenge. This was about showing my daughter what strength looks like. Before I tell you what I decided, let me pause here. If you've been with me through this journey, through the betrayal, the heartbreak, the cruel rejection, and now the table's turning, then please hit that subscribe button. Because what I chose to do wasn't just for me. It was for every parent who's ever been told no when all they needed was love. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to them. "You want my help?" I said firmly. "Then hear me first." Their eyes lifted, desperate, hopeful. "You taught me something I'll never forget," I continued. "You taught me that blood alone doesn't make you family. Family is about sacrifice, about showing up when it matters most. And you failed that test. You chose gold over love. You chose chandeliers over a child's life. And now, you want me to forget it?" Silence. Only their quiet sobs filled the room. "I don't hate you," I said, my voice steady. "But I don't owe you anything either. You turned your backs when I needed you most. And that choice has consequences. You'll have to live with those consequences, just like I had to live with Lily's pain." Victoria tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. "Sophia, please, don't do this. We're family." I shook my head. "No. Family isn't what you are by blood. Family is what you prove by your actions. And you proved you weren't mine." With that, I opened the door. "Leave," I said simply. One by one, they walked out, faces pale, shoulders heavy with shame. Richard avoided my eyes, Robert muttered something about regret, and Margaret cried quietly. Victoria was the last to go. She looked back at me, her eyes red. "I hope one day you forgive us." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Some wounds aren't healed with words. As the door clicked shut, Daniel let out a long breath. "You did the right thing, Sophia." I turned to Lily, who was still watching from the doorway. I knelt before her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "today you saw something important. You saw that no matter how badly people hurt us, we can still stand tall. We don't need their approval, their money, or their love. We have our own strength. We have each other." She smiled faintly, and in that smile, I saw everything I needed. That night, As I tucked her into bed, I thought about how far we had come. From desperation to power. From rejection to strength. From being abandoned to standing tall. My family may have turned their backs, but I had found something far greater than their wealth. I had found my voice, my strength, and my daughter's future. And that was priceless.